Ragin'.
Ragin' Review.
The Ragin' Cajuns will be a source of pride for this university, for the alumni, fans, and donors as we achieve success in the classroom, in the competitive arena, and in the community.
It's about to get really fun.
We're looking for dudes that will stand up. Well, Coach, let me tell you today, I'm here and I'm ready to stand up. And I challenge you, Ragin' Cajun Nation, to stand up with us. Stand up with us. Let's lock hand in hand and let's walk through the gates of Omaha.
Hey, I love y'all boys. Let's grind every day starting today. Let's do it. Y'all ready? Alert! Ready? Who's that team ready? Who's that team ready? That's up.
I got one thing to say right here. Cajuns win!
Hello once again, and welcome to another edition of the Ragin' Review podcast. I'm Jerry, joined by Nick, Lane. Also have our fan spotlight tonight, Mr. Blake Bork, and we got lots to talk about. Cajuns lose a heartbreaker last week to South Alabama by the score of 24-22. We'll pretty much review that for just a little while and burn that game away. We'll talk about our upcoming matchup against the Troy Trojans for Senior Day at Cajun Field this coming Saturday. We'll also talk about what's going on around the Sun Belt Conference and where the Cajuns stand in the Sun Belt Conference race to hopefully get a spot in the conference championship. We'll talk about the upcoming gumbo cook-off happening at Cajun Field for Senior Day at the tailgate area. We'll also talk about men's basketball. They had unfortunate series of events against Rice the other night. We'll also talk about their upcoming tournament in the Virgin Islands. And we'll talk about much more around Reinhardt Drive with Ragin' Cajun Athletics. But first things first, guys, happy Thursday. You know, it's crazy. We're 1 week away from Thanksgiving. It seemed like just yesterday we were talking about the upcoming season. Now we only have 2 games left in the regular season with a chance to compete for a conference championship. Where's the time gone exactly?
How do you know you're getting old? You start talking like your mama and daddy did. Man, the time's passing fast, huh? Like, that's how I feel like it is lately. I feel like the older I get, and my parents said that, because when you're young, you just cannot wait for Thanksgiving, and it feels like it's going to take 2 years to go, 2 months, and now it's just like you blink and stuff's over. So, yeah, I'm like, man, time is passing fast. Fast. We need Poodle on
fast. We could get him on. I mean, he is a friend of the pod,
I know.
So yeah, it's crazy. It really is crazy how fast time has flown this football season. It's been a fun football season, but of course it's a shame that it looks like we're sort of nearing the end, right? But anyway,
Jerry, before we go, I do want to shout out a couple people. My mama watching. She's not feeling well tonight, but my mama never misses an episode. So hope you feel better, Mama Thelma. And also my sister-in-law, Chris's wife. She had surgery today on her knee. Things went very well for her. So she may be watching in the hospital right now. Gonna go home in the morning. So just wanted to shout out my peeps that aren't feeling well tonight. That's all I got. Now back to you, Jerry.
Anyways, yeah, it's all good. Well wishes to both. So
I want to shout out to all the football players that are going to be coming in that have been texting me this weekend, coming in for this game.
Love it.
They've had more hype around the last game, and former players. Eric Bartel texted me he's coming in. There's a bunch of people on the Facebook feed that were saying they were coming in, and so I know we got extra tailgate spots. We got two more RV spots right across from where we normally RV at. So I'm pumped, man. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah. So for those of you who are wondering who this gentleman is, this is Mr. Blake Bork, former Ragin' Cajun football player from, I think it was 1999 to 2002. Did I get that right?
Time flew by on that one too, bro.
There you go. Watching you play. I mean, that was part of my childhood. I was on the sidelines as some, little 10-year-old kid.
I remember you at the tent, man. I remember you at the bank tent throwing the football.
I know, man, way back in the day. And, so you've definitely seen this program grow just like the rest of us. And, you put in the blood, sweat, and tears of Louisiana Raging Cajuns football, and now you're an alum, you're a supporter, and you were a fullback, right? That you were a former fullback for the Cajuns, correct?
Yeah, so I was recruited as a linebacker, and then I came and I only played one game as a linebacker, and I was on one special team against Oklahoma State, and I had a really good game, and they needed a short-yarded goal line fullback for the next day whenever we played Texas Tech. And so we didn't really have a fullback in the offense. Coach Baldwin had a no fullback offense. So I started pretty much for 4 years. 3 of those years as a fullback and a no fullback offense. Short yardage and special teams for me.
You're basically our Mike Allstott, I guess.
No, I didn't carry the ball as much as Mike Allstott. That would have been cool. No.
Or goal line, right? Goal line. You had to have that lead block.
Yeah, I was more like an offensive lineman. When Tussle came, though, it was cool. It kind of saved at least my memories of college football because I got to catch the ball a little bit. I got to run the ball a little bit. Fullback was featured. Me and Wayne Stein played a lot my senior year, his junior year, and it was fun.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Wayne Stein is now the head coach of St. Charles Catholic. And how many state titles has he won as a coach?
I don't know. He's
won a few.
Too. Yeah, he's done really good at baseball too. Because he's always in season, we don't ever get to see him.
He never gets time off.
No, he's not gonna if he takes a bye, he's not coming up here, so we need to go see him out there.
So you were did I hear this right? You were on the Baldwin teams, right?
Stokely, Baldwin, Bussell.
Yeah. So wow. I don't know if you've heard this story, I'll repeat it, but the day that Baldwin got fired, I was doing some work at the radio station, also working with the baseball team. And so we get called into nobody was in town. I think people were Jay was out of town or whatever. So I went with a recorder and recorded the press conference. And I'm standing out there with TD Smith, in his big voice. And he looks in the trash can. And he's like, "Oh, look at this. It's his nameplate." So we figured what was going to happen at the press conference because he had already thrown his nameplate in the garbage. So we pulled it out of the garbage and kept it as the fantasy football biggest loser award. So the last place person gets the Jerry Baldwin award to this day for our fantasy football team there.
Oh, that's funny. I'll never forget Coach Mark was my running back coach. And the last day he walked into the Cajun athletic facility with an LSU shirt on. And that tells you everything you need to know about that man's character.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
You're good. It's a lot of memories that come back because, like I said, I grew up around it too, and it's crazy how far we've come as a program, right? I mean, just Blake, think about it: the buildings you were recruited to, as opposed to what players are being recruited to now. The locker room that you dressed out in, the weight room that you worked out in, and now it's all storage basically. It's completely.
It's night and day. When I walked on, when you walk on, we're going to be on scholarship, and then if you play a little bit, if you start on special teams, or if you're going to be a starter, we're going to get you a scholarship. It took me 2.5 years for me to be able to get my scholarship, and that entire time, there was this milkshake. That was the only thing. We didn't have supplements. We didn't have a nutrition plan. We had Coach Gannon, who was the strength coach for 350 athletes. No GAs. I think Scott Fournier came and there was Coach Gannon finally had. Scott's now a chiropractor. Coach Gannon finally had graduate assistants. And so we had this one little creatine physio powder, and we had this one little protein shake that was mainly sugar. And I worked my butt off for that shake because I couldn't get one as a walk-on. They did not have the budget to give the walk-ons the daily protein shake after workouts too.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. It was. And so
crazy.
To see where we're at now, bro, this is. I walked into the locker room and I was crying. I was like, oh,
I remember my dad was one of the first donors / fans / supporters that started the supplement program. And I remember around, I think it was 2006, 2007-ish, he would get fans to donate jars of peanut butter and bread after workouts. And then more fans started writing checks. And before you know it, it became part of the RCAF. And the way so he was on the weightlifting team during that national championship run in the 60s. He was on the 68 team. So when it came to endurance and staying in shape, especially on the food side of things, he knew what to do. And he'd watch our games and we would just be so worn out in the fourth quarter because we didn't have the proper resources to be able to, stay up in the late in the game because we didn't have the supplements. We didn't have enough, like you said, certain training foods and whatnot. So like he basically said, this is ridiculous, and got a bunch of his friends together who were also diehards and said, look, let's all chip in money for a supplements program. Just write some checks, $100. Let's go buy some peanut butter. Let's go buy some protein. Let's go just healthy stuff that'll allow the players to, just be able to last and survive the fourth quarter. I mean, and then now it went from something like that to literally the players have their own snack bar specifically for nutrition. I mean, you go into the Athletic Performance Center, it competes with SEC schools, but to see where it came from to where it is now, and Blake, I mean, like I said, you played during that time when we didn't have any of that. It really is amazing. And that just shows the commitment this school has made to football as opposed to when we grew up watching it, night and day.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of unsung heroes in there too. Mr. Porsche in the training room.
Oh yeah,
keeping everybody shimmy sham, take a shimmy sham. He was, and then Big Lynn.
Renee, you can't leave out Renee. Renee was there for.
Yeah, Renee was awesome. I mean, it was Michelle Didier was there with us. Big Lynn though in the equipment room,
of course. Yeah,
just running the show. Blackjack was there my freshman year, and then whenever he passed, we had some new trainers that came in. But I mean, they were talking about. I mean, like it wasn't even a shoestring budget; it was a floss.
There was no budget.
Is there a budget? Not really. Yeah. Is there? I think if people were writing checks back then, maybe they didn't even know how to take them in. Or they were going someplace else because
they're being misallocated. They're being misappropriated, with the, I mean, the former regime. I mean, that's common knowledge now looking back.
But I love what we see now. The excitement around the program, the facility, the football, the team, the culture, the head coach. Dude, I'd run through a wall. Look, I always say this. I say, I loved watching Terrell Finroy carry the ball. But Terrell's on the wall because Coach Des kept the ball. And I wish every quarterback would understand that, if you're going to run that type of offense, you got to keep the ball sometimes. And because he would keep the ball, because he was a 1,000-yard rusher, Finroy's on the wall. You put linebackers in so much trouble whenever you have the threat of a quarterback taking it, even if they don't take it far. Just the threat of him taking it makes you tighten up. And so that was – I think Coach Des in this program, we're gonna keep these 8-2 seasons. I don't think a lot of us really thought we were going to be 8-2 at the end of the season. I think we thought we'd be fighting for a conference championship, but we're still in the driver's seat. So
yeah, for sure. So let's talk about that, right, guys? So last week, Cajuns are 8-2 right now. They did drop their first game in a while to South Alabama last week at Cajun Field, and let's just call it what it is. It's a tale of two halves. When you come out and South Alabama comes out swinging because you decide to fouiller in the first half and give up a 3-touchdown lead to South Al, that's what happens. And I thought that in the second half, and Coach Des alluded to this, you saw the character of this team. I'm not going to say I don't like moral victories, but one thing that that I was pleased with was the fact that this team came out and swung hard and scored 19 points, outscored South Alabama 19-0 in the second half, and came 2 points short of tying it and going overtime and giving themselves a chance to win. So that is one thing that I do appreciate about this team, is that even against Tulane, in the 2 losses, they played till the final whistle. And that's something that I think Coach Des has instilled in this team, in this locker room. And I can tell you, for a fact that after this loss, I do think it was a wake-up call to this football team to realize we can't play around. These last 2 games are serious. These last 2 games, we still control our own destiny. And I'm not gonna say, I was happy after Saturday night, because I wasn't. But one thing that I was inspired by is I know this team's not going to quit. And after that first half, I don't think that, and I'm hoping that we don't see that again for this game or the game the following week. What do you guys think?
As bad as the coaching decisions I felt were in the first half, and the laziness or lackadaisical look from the team in the first half, like you said, the second half they turned it on, and that's what good teams do. Good teams play well both halves, but when you're gonna face adversity throughout the season, and that was a case of facing serious adversity and digging yourself into a really big hole. But they responded, and they responded well. I thought South Alabama was a lot more physical than I expected them to be, but they also came out hair on fire, wanting to, you know, they came to play. They wanted to shake up the West, and they did that. That's what concerns me a little bit about Troy. Now, Troy is not going to score nearly as many points per game as South Alabama does, but they just went in and shook up the East when they beat Georgia Southern last week. So, yes, I'm happy that the way that we came out and responded in that second half. I hope it's a wake-up call for them. It should be a wake-up call for them. But you control your own destiny. You've got to win these next two games to really secure your spot at home for the championship game. So that starts this coming Saturday with Troy, and they can't come out, you know, like they did in the first half of the last game. That will prove trouble for them, I feel.
I listened to the show last week when y'all were talking about this, and I think y'all had mentioned there was a word trap that kind of came out, and as soon as it was said, it was like Mufasa, you know, like you could kind of like stand away from it a little bit. So I played against Major Applewhite in college. We were up 10-0 when we played UT. Chris Sims was quarterback. They pulled Chris Sims. Major Applewhite came in and scored 55 unanswered points. So, like, I was afraid of this team because, you know, the head coach is actually he's a good coach too, man. He's a player's coach, and when I watched the ULM game and I watched the South Al game when they played each other, and I watched two true freshman running backs run all over the place. And Fluff, I think that was his first name, right? Fluff was a hard runner. I mean, he was good in the ULM game, and he was good when they played us. What is it like? Last year we lost 5 games by 8 points or less by one score. This year,
somewhere around there.
This year, our only 2 games we've lost have been by one, you know, 8 points or less. So 7.
Well, we beat Wake by 3. And
I'm sorry, lost 5 games.
Yes.
Last year we lost,
and we
5.
lost
This year
2 this year by 1.
We lost
score,
2 this year by 1 score.
So, like, I mean, you know, we're in it. You know, like we're in it. It's Coach Dez has got the team, like you said, fighting to the last whistle. It's great.
Lane
can't get his stuff working. So
okay, that's all good.
Poor Lane.
Well, finally, it's not me for once, right?
Yeah. Well, knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Yeah. So let's put a like I said, I'll usually say let's put a bow on it after a win, but let's just basically crumple this and burn it afterwards. But I'll just say to close it out, you know, again, we're going to see how this team responds this week against Troy. Again, the character showed in the second half. You know, one thing that disappointed me was in the first half, call me a wimp, call me a sissy, but I'd rather take the points all day, every day. And like with the first touchdown or the first drive, you know, we tried to go in for the end zone, go in for the score. And that kind of set the tone indirectly in a way that gave South Alabama this unspoken momentum that caused the first half to be what it was. I think if we kick a field goal, I don't think it's as bad. Because I think when you play they always say play your cards close to your vest. We showed our card when we did that. And I thought that was kind of odd because usually Dez calls the field goal. And then after that happened in the second half, we kick the field goal every time, you know, and I just feel like in a game like this against Troy this week, you know, if you get 4th and 2, what yard line were we on when that happened? Were we inside we were in the red zone.
Around the 20, right?
The 20?
So I don't know if we were in, but we were close if we weren't in.
Look,
we were in Kenny's range for sure.
Anything within 35 is going to be a chip shot for Kenny.
Yeah.
I'm just just take the points, kick the field goal, take the points. Those 3. I mean, look, now we lose by 2. He kicks the field goal. We're maybe talking about a different outcome. So
is also the play. I mean, I'm okay with going on fourth down in that situation because you expect to get it. I think he expected to get. I don't think he expected to get stuffed. I don't know if I like the motion with the fullback and having Bill so close because he's coming in. He's already a sharp guy and he's searching for his hole instead of being able to just hit it. And then they kind of, I forget the fourth down play that they ran. I feel like it was almost like a zone blocking scheme. I could be completely wrong though. I don't remember. I just know it was 24-3 and we blinked and the half was over.
Yeah. And also too, I thought that for whatever reason, and so I'll give credit to South Alabama's defensive coaching staff. They prepared effectively for the fact that we love to go to the flat. A lot of our offense is based on, out routes, quick passes out into the flat. And every single time we tried it, every single time we had a guy motion to the flat and go out for a short pass, there was always either a linebacker or an edge rusher right there waiting for it.
Do you think that's quarterback specific? Do you think we're going to see the same type of tendency? Because I feel
that's a good question.
When Chandler's in, I feel like he's throwing more across the middle and he's throwing a little bit deeper.
That's a good question.
Correct.
That's
and
right.
Ben loves that deep out. I mean, he's got a pro arm for it.
But I think that's also when you saw the difference in the second half, is when they put Chandler in. I don't think that they were prepared to see Chandler. And you could tell because Chandler has a completely different delivery. And like you said, he's got his favorite receivers he likes to throw to. And it was not the same. And I don't think they were prepared for that.
I think Chandler likes going vertical a little bit more than Ben.
He'll take more chances for sure.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So a lot of times Ben would take that dump off pass. He'll take that check route and that's fine. I mean, we have the skill players to do it. And I think one of the things that I remember Coach Dez alluded to earlier in the season was Ben needs to take more chances. Ben needs to go up top a little bit more. Ben needs to go long every once in a while, more often than he does. But at the same time, that was what made Ben such a great quarterback was he didn't take those chances. He hit those out routes. He hit those corner routes, 10 to 15 yards, especially on the road. I mean, that was his bread and butter. But I think Chandler's different because Chandler's going to go vertical and he's going to take off running if he has to. He's more of a type of quarterback that'll I feel like he's a little more mobile than Ben. And I also feel like his passing ability is different in the fact that he's going to hit you on a 20-yard slant and not think twice about it. Whereas Ben might check down first, so that's going to be interesting to see. As we saw last week when South Alabama had those guys on the edge or playing a zone on the edge, waiting for those out routes, how Troy comes in preparing for it based on the fact that Chandler's going to be quarterbacking instead.
Mm-hmm. What was he? He was like 14. How many incompletions did he have in the second half? Like 3?
He was 14 for 17, I think, for like 160 something yards, a touchdown. Yeah, he had a good second half.
Yeah, man, that was a super strong performance. I don't know if he's faster, like if because Ben's deceptively fast because he has a longer stride, but Chandler looks quicker.
He's mobile. He's more mobile,
quicker. Like Doug Flutie quicker.
Agreed. He's a little bit shorter, but he definitely looks a little more of a speedster on the outside when he keeps it. And I feel like more design plays it for him to keep the football than Ben. Ben will do it on short yardage. Chandler, it can be 3rd and 8, and they'll find a way to sneak him. And he did it a few times last year. Yeah. So anyway, with that being said, that was the game for South Alabama. Again, Cajuns drop a close one by the score of 24-22. Louisiana's record now sits at 8-2 overall, 5-1 in conference play. They do still control their own destiny in the West. As of right now, I want to correct myself from what I said in the postgame. I said in the postgame that all Louisiana has to do is win one more game. I was wrong. They're going to have to win both games, or if they drop a game, South Alabama would have to lose the next 1 out of 2, which they play Southern Miss this week. That's going to be a win. But then they host Texas State the last week, which could be challenging for them. But you know what? Screw it. We need to win the final 2 games, and starting with Troy on Saturday. Don't worry about what South Alabama does. Control our own destiny. I am going to say this publicly on the record. You're playing a 3-7 Troy team. You're playing a ULM team that might have a 6-game losing streak going into the final week. If we don't win both of these games, in my honest opinion, we don't deserve to be in the conference championship. if you want to be conference champions and you want to compete for a conference title, you got to win your next 2 games, and you're going to be favored in both, but you got to win your next 2 games, and that starts on Saturday against the Troy Trojans.
No, I agree. And look, it's a long season, and you play 12 games for a reason, to determine who that champion is. And we dug ourselves a hole against South Alabama. I mean, we could have wrapped things up last week, and now it's iffy. So, look, again, 1 game at a time. You're going to be favored heavily in both of those games. But none of that matters. All that matters is execution and attitude and doing your job. The old Sean Payton, do your job. Everybody's just got to do their job. So, it is what it is, man.
When you have like this type of adversity, look, you just lost a top 10 quarterback. You did. You lost a guy who had a 7-1 record, and so you look for the upside, you look for opportunities to be able to prepare your team, and you do have 2 games to get prepped for the conference championship. You got 2 games to go out there with Chandler Fields as your quarterback and execute the offense, so that way he has real time throwing in real game situations with 2 teams that, Troy. What's our record the last 10 years against Troy?
I think we are, let's see, since 14. If we've played them in the last 10 times, we might have won 5, somewhere around there. It's about half and half, about 500.
But ask ChatGPT. So no, but because the reason I say is because we have dominated that series, and I have played. ULM beat me my last home game, so I know what it's like for us to go in thinking we're going to wipe the floor with them and to get upset. Last game I ever played as a Raging Cajun was against ULM, and we were like, how the hell did we lose that game? They just bite up and just snake bite you sometimes. We lost one close to them a couple of years back just like that with a team that should have wiped the floor with them. So it's ULM is the game that scares me because it's rivalry, and you just don't know what's going to happen during a rivalry, and because of the first half we just witnessed. But we take care of business. I mean, you get to grease the machine going into the conference championship, which is, as a coach, you're looking for that opportunity.
No question. Lane, you with us? You good?
Yep, I'm good now. I'm on a hot spot,
Great.
So
Hey,
I had to get that figured out.
drastic measures. Nothing wrong with that. So, Lane, we were just finishing talking about the South Alabama game, and we just kind of talked about how we basically goofed around in the first half, and it came back to haunt us in the second half. We didn't quit. Give your thoughts. Give your thoughts on South Alabama and what you saw and what you think we need to do to focus on Troy.
So I think we obviously need to get off to a better start offensively in the first half. That's a big key. But like you said, we goofed off in the first half last week. And if we would have played up, not necessarily up to our potential, but played better early on, I feel like we could have pulled it out and we wouldn't be worrying about the tiebreakers and all that like we are now.
Yeah, definitely. And, look, another thing that I noticed in the game against South Alabama, I thought the defense, even though they really struggled in the first quarter and a half, made some great adjustments. And I think that's a kudos to Coach Salgado in getting that done. I don't think South Alabama had 100 yards of total offense in the second half. They might have had like 50, if I'm not mistaken. So carry that momentum into Troy, right? Because Troy's an offense that can score. And speaking of the Troy Trojans, let's talk about them, right? So the Troy Trojans come to town this week against Louisiana for Senior Day. Troy, not quite the season that they expected. They're coming off 2 years, 2-time defending Sun Belt Conference champions. They've been ranked in the top 25. They've beaten the Cajuns the last 2 years. Close games. Louisiana blowing a 17-point lead in the second half in 2022, losing by 3 or losing by 6 to Troy. I think it was 23-17, if I'm not mistaken, without looking at it. And then last year, dropping a close game, 31-24, a Troy team that was probably a little bit better last season. And again, they won the conference title again. And believe it or not, I thought Chandler Fields, he started that game last year at Troy, had a great game. I mean, he threw for over 200 yards, 3 touchdown passes. It was one for the record books. And I thought that it was a game that we could have won. There were a few bad calls here and there. There were a few plays that we just couldn't quite make. And so my mindset is if we can go to Troy last year with the team that we had and go against them and go toe-to-toe at their house, there's no reason why with everything that's on the line for us, and they're a 3-7 team, while we can't take care of business. Now, one thing about Troy, they sit at a 3-7 record, but in the last 2 weeks, they won a huge game against Coastal Carolina on November 2nd at home, 38-24. And then they went to Statesboro last week and beat Georgia Southern 28-20. Now, they may be finding their stride this time of year, which could be pretty threatening. But one thing about Troy this year is that they've brought in a lot of transfers. Their coach, Gerard Parker, is a new head coach. Of course, John Summerall is lighting it up at Tulane right now, and he kind of like what Billy Napier did. Took a lot of his staff with him to New Orleans. Took some players to New Orleans to be a part of the Tulane football program. And I mean, again, you see what they're doing right now. Top 25 team. So of course, Troy had to basically start from scratch. A lot of new players, a lot of new transfers, new coaching staff. And they had mentioned that before the season. A lot of people are like, look, this team is, they're not going to be the Troy Trojans that we know and love the last couple of years. And it showed the first couple of games. They couldn't score points. They couldn't really, I watched the game against Texas State. It looked like it was bad. It was bad. And so, we were talking about it weekly, Nick and Lane, about how Troy would, 1-5, 1-6, 1-7. And I guess the Troy team that seeing Troy struggle the way they have this year, minus these last 2 weeks, it kind of helps me appreciate what Coach Des did his first year as head coach, when Billy took 30-something, of our staff members, including, half of our starting 11 on each side of the football. We still went 6-6 and lost by a touchdown to Houston in the Independence Bowl. Whereas Troy, they're playing their last 2 games of the season, not making a bowl. So the dynamics and my mindset towards that 2022 season changed a little bit, seeing how much Troy has struggled this year with the new coach, with the new staff, and losing as much as they have.
Yeah. And despite that, Jerry, they are 28 for 29 in the red zone. So they might not.
That's actually really good.
No kidding. So
that's really good. Yeah.
Which is first in the country. Yeah, it's really good. So and when Lane pulled out the stat about us being one of the worst teams in the country when it comes to red zone defense, that's a little bit concerning. Now, I don't expect that they're going to put up a whole lot of points outside of that Coastal Carolina game. And I think the FCS game, they haven't scored. I think they averaged like 23, 24 points a game. So they're not going to have the high powered offense that they did, that we saw last week. South Alabama had the opportunity to they had a pretty high powered offense in that first half. They kept us off balance the entire time, and it showed. I think, look, you're talking about, I think his name is Caldwell, their quarterback. Was just named Offensive Player of the Week for the Sun Belt. Okay. So you got that guy coming in to a game with confidence. You've got Troy coming into the game with confidence. If they get into the red zone, they score. Now they're not going to score a touchdown every time, but they do score. When you talk about their record 3-7 doesn't sound great. And they're certainly not the Troy of last year. And I wouldn't compare them to the Troy team of last year. We went toe to toe with them, but yeah, they had a much better team top to bottom, and a team that had been together for quite a while. And now you have a bunch of transfers with a new coach, and it takes time sometimes to get to the end of the season, to get some continuity there and to make things happen. So yeah, I am, it's a game we should certainly win. However, it puts a little doubt into your head when you start thinking about the stats coming into this game. Now, rushing defense, 112 nationally. Okay. They allow about 200 rushing yards per game. Offensive production, like I said, they're not going to score a whole lot of points per game. They're ranked 120th nationally. And pass protection, they give up sacks, right? Their offensive line gets beat, and I think we're going to have a definite advantage there. So I think this is another game where we're going to have to win it in the trenches. But they do have some talent on their team, man. Like I said, Caldwell just won the Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Week. Damian Taylor has 4 touchdowns, 682 rushing yards on the season. And then they've got a pretty good wide receiver, Devontae Ross, that's got about 700, 800 yards on the season. So they've got some talent, just like any other FBS team. The difference, I think, is going to be in the trenches. And then, again, are we going to be able to run the ball against them? Because we didn't have that much success against a South Alabama team that was good against a run. So are we going to take advantage of it like we took advantage of the passing? That they were terrible in pass coverage throughout the season. We tried that and we had a little bit of success in the second half, not enough to get it done. So I think you might see a little bit more of a focus in the run game this week, where our offensive line tries to make some things happen. Because just looking purely at statistics, looking purely at the talent on both lines, the trenches are going to be where we're going to win this game if we win this game. I fully believe that going into the game against Troy this weekend.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talked about stats. So I'm looking here and you mentioned how they don't really score many points. They're only scoring 23 points a game. Before the last 2 weeks, that average was probably around less than 20 points. And I think from what I understand, in the last 4 or 5 games, they've actually revamped their entire offensive scheme. And so now you're seeing the results of that. And I'm guessing they probably simplified it to what's working and what's not. They probably simplified it to their strengths, and it shows, and those are the type of offenses where it gets a little intimidating to play against, because it's good and bad, right? Because they probably revamped it to their strengths, where okay, here's where the ball's going, here's what they're doing. But then when they execute it so well, sometimes you can't defend it. And that's where it's going to be interesting to see how our defense is able to step up. I thought losing Tyree Skipper for the year, it showed a little bit in that South Alabama game. Now, granted, we had backups, guys that came in from the bench in the secondary that really stepped up in the second half, which is great. And so hopefully that can kind of carry on. But, one other thing I wanted to add, Nick, about your stats that you showed is that as I look at their statistics, they have 211 passing yards, which is pretty average. And defensively, they've given up 207 passing yards. I mean, their total offense is 10 yards less than what they're giving up right now. They've scored 29 touchdowns. They've given up 30. I'm looking at penalties. They're averaging 61 yards per game in penalties, which is not really that good when you think about it, compared to the 53 that they've given up. And on third downs, they're 50%. And then on fourth downs, they're 41%. They've lost 5 fumbles. Or they've lost 5 fumbles out of 13. Like you said, they've given up 14 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a team that it's kind of like South Alabama, where you don't really see explosiveness, but if you don't show up, they're going to surprise you.
So on fantasy football, you can look and see stats for players the last 4 weeks. You hit on it like perfectly. The last 4 weeks, they've changed their offense. This team had 3 starters from last year on offense playing on offense this year, and only 1 on defense. That's the returning. And we think we have 7 on offense and maybe 11 guys.
Yeah, we retained our whole team.
So like we've done, by the way, good job, Coach Des, in this NIL day and the transfer portal. That's culture. But so you have the last 4 games, they've revitalized their rushing attack. They've got better quarterback efficiency. I think they're throwing like 65% over the last 4 games. And then they've had better play calling. And like training is everything. Everything is training. So practice doesn't just happen Monday through Thursday and Friday walkthroughs. Practice happens during the game. Game time situations. If I'm studying film on Troy, I'm probably not looking at game 1 and game 2 for these guys, unless it's like, hey, this is against a 4-3 defense and Troy runs a 4-3 defense. Let's see how they block, or to see how they attack our scheme. I'm going to be looking at the last 2 games as a player. That's the game tape I'm really going to look at. And the GAs are going to break stuff down for us to be able to be prepared. But those last 4 games probably matter a lot. And it's a much better team than the record. I mean, they're 2-4 still over the last 4 games, but they're much better.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's like, it's kind of a what have you done for me lately situation. And again, they couldn't score 20 points the first 7 games, and in the last 2 weeks they're averaging over 30. So that to make a 180 like that, obviously they did something, and obviously it's a huge shift in dynamics, and it's also a huge shift on how we can prepare for that, right? Because Blake, that's a good point. I mean, I would look at film from the last 4 or 5 games max, because obviously the last 4 or 5 games things have worked. And then, but you know what? I would also look at film. Probably in the first 5 games to see what are their weaknesses, because obviously there were certain things that we're doing that were
you're going to study it.
Mistakes. Yeah. What can we do to expose them too? So it's an interesting point you make. But this team, it makes this team so mysterious, because it's like, does the team that shows up on Saturday from the last 2 weeks show up? And do they look like a championship caliber team, or do we see the team that showed up the first 4 or 5 weeks and we pull what we did against Troy in 2019, where we won the game? What was it, 53-3 or something like that? I mean, I would like that. It'd be a lot better as a fan to enjoy that, but that would mean we would have to show up and play as well. And
in October 26th, they lose to Arkansas State 28-21. So, common opponents there. We had our best game probably in the last 3 years against Arkansas State. November 2nd, they defeat Coastal Carolina 31-17. So we didn't really we didn't put Coastal away like I thought we should have put Coastal away, right? I think we all agree on that one. And then we haven't played Georgia Southern, but they lost to Georgia Southern 24-20, and then defeated Southern Miss 27-14. So they didn't.
Wait, they beat Georgia Southern last week.
They lost to they won
28-20 last week.
Yeah, they won 28-20 against Georgia Southern.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. No, it's all good. You're good. But that's the surprise. That's where I come in and I'm like, all right, this Georgia Southern team pretty much just like we did controlled the destiny in their division, and you let a 2-7 team come to your house and beat you pretty, not convincingly, but that's a good win. I mean, last week everybody was predicting Louisiana versus Georgia Southern, and then Troy comes in and everybody's thinking this Troy game is going to be an easy W, and now Marshall controls their destiny in the East. So yeah, that's the beauty of the Sun Belt, man. You just never know. You just never
ChatGPT just sold me out, dude. They just sold me out.
What happened?
I just said, "Are you sure?" And it gave me completely different stats. It's my apologies.
No, you're good.
Like, how are you wrong? I know it's late, but still,
she's tired, man. She's tired. Give her a break.
She's had a long day. My
name's Alexis.
So let's talk about what we need to do, and let's talk about the 3 keys to victory. So I'm going to give you my 3 keys real quickly. First, I say, after what we learned last week, you got to stop Troy's offense. You cannot let them. They're hot right now. You cannot let them get off to a fast start. A team that has been able to score at will the last 2 weeks against some quality competition, we got to force some 3-and-outs early. We got to make sure that we don't allow them to extend drives, because that's exactly what we did against South Alabama. And we have to learn how to make adjustments on the fly, which we did in the second half, but in the first half, we couldn't quite do that last week, because, we can't afford to trail again by 3 scores. I mean, it's that simple. And I don't think we'll allow that to happen, but I don't want to be trailing period against this team. I mean, I want to be able to enforce our will. This is a great week to get back on track and still, create some momentum to control the destiny that we have. So I definitely don't want their offense to do much early on, and we need to make some stops in the first half. Also, I think you take what the defense gives you. In other words, when it's 4th and 2, kick the field goal. Kick the field goal. Let's not try to get fancy. Let's just take what the defense gives you. We actually play our best when we're a balanced offense. I like doing both. I like a little bit of mix, run and pass. I think with Chandler at quarterback, we can do that. We do have our running back core. I know Zylan Perry will probably be out this week, so you have Bill. You're going to rotate probably between Bill and Draylon, which is totally fine with me, because they're doing a great job. So that'll be a good duo, and they can get back on track with their run game. And last but not least, I think the third point would be red zone scoring. We got to score inside the red zone. And I'm not talking about settling for 3 or 4 field goals. I'm talking get in the end zone against a team that is 28 for 29 in the red zone. So we're going to have to be able to score in the red zone. And we're going to have to be able to stop their offense early, force some turnovers, and take what the defense gives you. That's my 3 keys to victory. What you guys got?
Yeah, I had a few of those. So I have 6. So now I'm down to 3. Don't come out flat. That is to me the biggest thing. like you were alluding to. We just can't get behind early in the game. Win in the trenches. I think we have an opportunity to get at their quarterback on the defensive side. I think we have a chance to run the ball on the offensive side, set up some nice play action pass with Chandler, and be balanced, as you said. So I think just winning the trenches will be very key. And then don't out coach ourselves. Don't overthink a decision. There's analytics and there's manalytics. Know the difference between the two, and use proper judgment when you're in a situation that deems it appropriate, and just don't overthink things. So I think those are my three.
Lane, what you got, man?
I think I agree with you, Jerry, on the turnovers. Troy is 101 in turnover margin in the country. So I believe that getting turnovers on defense is going to be the top key. And then getting the running game going between Bill and Draylon, and getting out to a fast start. If we don't get out to a fast start, it might be too close for comfort late in the game.
I want to put this on the running backs' both ways. We've got to we need a balanced attack offensively. I think key. Our offense is most effective when it's multi-dimensional. And I'd like to see us feed the hot hand. I think Draylon was hot last week, and we didn't give him the ball. He touched the ball and he was just explosive. He was just fast last week, man. So love to see him get a couple of more touches, especially with Chandler being able to put some pressure on linebackers to hold him, because he may just take it and scoot. But I think we have to establish a running game, and we got to contain Troy's rushing game. I think they rushed for like 40-something attempts last week. It was like 41 rushes for like 150-something yards.
They do run the football. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, dude, they're just like, here you go. Here you go. And to be fair, that's not our strength. It hasn't been. You know what I mean? So, like, we let little, short, fast running backs run for gaps. And so I think we establish rushing and we contain the rushing. And then my third was actually lane turnover margin. We got to get some takeaways, and then we got to go and we got to score.
No doubt about it. So that's all of our three keys to victory. Again, Louisiana takes on the Troy Trojans this weekend at Cajun Field for Senior Day. Kickoff will be at 4:00. We'll give more details as the episode goes on. But I also wanted to talk about, for the Troy game, not just the game itself, but this weekend we have a gumbo cook-off sponsored by Cajun Country Rice. It says here, fans can cook any gumbo of their choice at the tailgate to be judged before kickoff. The winner will receive an engraved rice paddle and be recognized during the game. Let's see. It says free cooking spots are available for participants. Go to ragingcajuns.com/gumbo to register. Now, of course, we have our fan spotlight here with Blake. And first of all, we appreciate the fact that Blake and a few others gave us a shout out last week. And, of course, when Rage and Review inspires, we gotta call it out in a positive way. Blake and I have known each other for a little while. We've got a lot of mutual friends and whatnot. And Blake and I spoke about this a few weeks ago. And one of the things that he reached out to us about was, what can we do to create fan engagement, right? That's something that we take pride in trying to get fans engaged, and we try to utilize our Cajun culture to kind of implement it to Raging Cajun athletics. And one of the ideas Blake came up with was a gumbo cook-off for the Troy game. The point, and you said it, Blake, the point of the Troy game was to do a gumbo cook-off and try to sell out for Senior Day, get people to show up. And just long story short, basically, Blake posted it on Facebook, had a huge hit. It was a huge success. And the athletic department, or was it? Yeah, I think it was either UL Athletics or somebody from UL contacted him and let him know, well, we had this planned already. And so basically, they had it planned for a while, and they were going to implement it because Cajun Country Rice wanted to sponsor it. And so Blake and some of our fans decided to kind of work with them a little bit on it. I don't know how much active presence you had in this idea, but I gotta say, man, it's good to see when when the fans step up and try to make moves like this. It goes to show you that we have a fan base that cares. We have a fan base that is passionate, and we have a fan base that'll utilize their resources to make sure that these types of events or any type of fan engagement is successful. So I just kind of want to hear your thoughts on it, Blake. Your idea behind it, and how, when the university was able to call you, how you wanted to kind of work with them, and just the importance of fan engagement as a whole, because you're a former player, you're an alum, you're a huge supporter, you're a passionate Cajuns fan. You wear the Raging Cajun shirt, with pride. Just talk a little bit about that and the importance of it as an alum and as a former player.
This idea of a gumbo cook-off is definitely not my idea. This has been talked about for 30 years, 20 years. Like, dude, I played here in 2000. You know what I mean? It's 2004. Like 24 years ago, the players were sitting around saying, "Why the hell don't we have cook-offs? Why aren't we doing a pig roast out there? Why aren't the fans out here celebrating?" We knew we had a 1 in 10 team, but it was like, man, if you gave them something in the parking lot to come to, we can get 10,000 people to show up to Scott, Louisiana, or we can get them to show up to the Crawfish Festival. We can get them to show up to the Rice Festival. You can get them to show up to the Po' Boy Festival. You can get them to show up to Rhythms on the River. You can get them to show up to Downtown Live. Okay, cool. So take that model and now bring it to something that can happen with the Cajun. The gumbo cook-off was just, can we inculcate some of our Cajun culture into something and get people excited about, yeah, man. And dude, it should be the most prestigious award in Cajun culinary cuisine. Like, we talking about you win the gumbo cook-off at Cajun Field. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, can your mama cook a gumbo? Take her ass to Cajun Field. Let's see. You know what I mean? Like, I have goosebumps. Like, I can't wait. Like, I want to enter 2 gumbos. I want to put my seafood in, and my brother-in-law Michael's doing a roasted turkey. He's going to do a turkey gravy. He's going to make a gumbo with like a smothered turkey. Like, I can't wait to taste it. So, yeah, I said inculcate. So, I got a general studies degree, ball. So, it took me 7 years to get it, but I got it. So we were just like, look, when you got a team that's winning, because we played in a time where we didn't win that much. And it was said, if the team was better, oh man, if the team was winning, we'd be there. Oh, there's no doubt. If the team was, man, if y'all were better, hey, maybe y'all should be D2, because then y'all win. Y'all can win a national championship like Monroe.
Remember that?
And then the stadium would be full. And it's like, okay, cool. All right. We did it. We did it underneath HUD. We won. We won consistently. We did it underneath Napier. We won elite. I mean, we're freaking top 20. Guess what? Same outcome. We're doing it again. Guess what? Same outcome. So now it wasn't our fault in 1999 and in 2000 and in 2001. Bullshit. It wasn't. The fans are not engaged. And so as a university, you have to look at that and say, what are we doing differently than we have done to get different results? If you continue to do the same thing and you get the same outcome, you got to take a step back and say, okay, am I on track or off track? Am I on track or off track? Is what I'm doing going to work? And I'm not criticizing what's going on right now in the university, the sports marketing department. What I'm saying is there are people here who have really great ideas. There are businessmen and women in this community that are creative, that are attentive, that are detailed, that are passionate, that run successful businesses, that manage payroll, that manage marketing, that understand that they have a product to sell at Cajun Field and they need to make it easy for people to get there, that the parking lot should be full so people could see it full so they stop and want to be full in it. That the game the game experience has elevated this year. So you got to get people to taste the honey. If they don't taste the honey, they're not going to give you money. Like, you got to get them to come in. And so we're not making it inviting for them to come. And I'm sitting back, I'm a consumer saying this. I am a person who is willing to put my money where my mouth is. I will bring my family. I will buy RV passes, and I want the experience. And so I was listening to your podcast, and I was like, I can't be a hypocrite anymore. I got to do something about it. I can't complain anymore. I got to do something about it.
Man, I appreciate it because it feels like, and I know you don't want to complain about the way things are, the way I've done this. But the thing is, but I can.
Future comments do not
are not indicative of, yeah. But, it's just, there's something in the culture of the program, Blake, that is still there from when I was a freshman, you were probably a sophomore. There's something in the culture of the program that won't go away. And it's like we make progress and we get the right people in place and things start happening and then we pull back from it. And then we start getting super conservative. And everything that you're saying is like, say it from the rafters, man. And some of that we've echoed over and over and over again. We've got way too much opportunity in this area to engage with folks and make it an event. I mean, how many times did Josh come on here and say, if you make it an exclusive event, people want to go? Think about when they opened a new restaurant in Lafayette. It might only be open for 3 months, but damn, those first 3 months, it's packed. And then, 6 months later, you can't find anybody there. But because it's a place to be, everybody wants to experience it. Yeah. Now, when nobody's there, nobody wants to show up. Remember the ice skaters. Yeah. Everybody was there. It was a place to be. You wanted to be seen. So, look, thank you for stepping up as a part of the community. Thank you for stepping up as a former player. And look, there are some cool things that are now starting to bubble up that are like really grassroots efforts. My hope and prayer is that those in charge of the university, I'm not even saying athletics, those in charge do not try to shut this stuff down because they have shut stuff down for long enough. And if you're not going to do it, we're going to do it. And so that is my hope and prayer.
That's the mindset that's happening right now is you want to run a parallel track and work alongside. But at some point, we are like, all right, so what if we just did it for you? Like, is there a way to privatize this thing? Can we not just give money? Can we raise money?
Right.
Can we be the thoughts behind, like, and look, I'm willing to, we want to have a conversation about it. We want to talk about it. We want innovative ideas. More fans, because this is one thing that you don't realize who's watching. You don't realize how far that social media reach actually is. Because when I was at last week's game, I'm just walking people that I know that I'm like, hey, how you doing? I just normally give them a hug and just kind of pass by. Like, hey, I saw your video, dude. Man, thanks for that. I was thinking the same thing. And then the same things that happened to you guys probably all week long in and around town. And a lot of folks just won't, because they were like me before I heard me and Darren Domang are sitting at our RV spot, and it didn't even hit me. When I heard 16,000 people, I was like, what? Homecoming? 71? It's embarrassing. Why? It can't be that way anymore. And then the first message, one of my favorite little guys in the world, he's not little anymore, he's big, Dylan. He said it's because of that the guys across the basin in duck season. I was like, that can't be the excuse anymore. We can't blame them.
And then I read the list, man. I read the list out.
Mediocrity.
I read the list. Yeah, Tulane had the same things going on, brother, and they sold out 30,000 in the stadium.
What I would do is, honestly, I love the Tulane rivalry. I lived in Mandeville. I missed some of the HUD years because I had a business in Mandeville that required my attention. I was all over the country, and I went to high school at Fontainebleau High School. So I have roots in Mandeville, Louisiana too. So I missed some of those HUD years there. So we've experienced Tulane. Tulane used to be empty.
Oh yeah, I remember. I grew up in New Orleans. The Superdome.
1,000 people in the Superdome. If you're lucky.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. And then they created an experience, an environment, and the stadium didn't save them. It ain't the stadium. If you build it, don't mean they're going to come. And that's one thing I really, really hope is just because we build a shiny object there, like you said, 3 months, it might be a busy restaurant, Nick. It might be. People are going to want to come check it out and see it. If they can park, price tickets aside.
If they can get bottled water.
but they got to be able to get freaking water. You got to be able to fix that. Game 1, 11 o'clock. You can't have people. Like, you got to be able to get water fixed. Back to, we have a logistics community in the oil and gas business. We have engineers, the best engineering college in America, maybe. I don't know. It's the oil and gas hub of the world. Can we figure out a plan to get water to the, and now it's not like I'm complaining, but I was thirsty that day. I could not get water. I know this. I'm trying to get it from my dad. When my dad says it's too hot for a beer, go give me some water, and I can't find water for him, and they're charging me for ice water, I don't mind. Give me the cups of ice water. Just please give me the tap water. I don't care. I just need to get water. Those types of things, we have to move past that. That's where it all bubbled up from.
And look, I'll give them some credit with the game day experience as far as the in-game experience. The South Alabama game with the military day and how they turn the lights off and you flash your iPhone lights in the fourth quarter, that was great.
But Jerry, here's the problem. Every year it starts off like crap and they get better. And by the end of the season, they figured it out. Then first game of next year, we're going to be here talking about the same shit. And that's what drives me crazy, Jerry.
Well, let's hope
do it every year.
But let's hope next year. Let's clean slate. Okay. I'm gonna say it right now. Clean slate. You're opening up a $80 million state-of-the-art side of a stadium. You're opening up all kind of new amenities, all kind of new experiences. Let's hope. I'm gonna live on. Look, I've lived on hope long enough with UL Athletics. I'm gonna live on hope for another 8 months when that new stadium opens. Let's hope that they take what they did last week with some of the in-game experiences, and they can use that to utilize with the new stadium, starting with their game against Rice, which is, I think, the first game of the year. It's our first home game. I believe we play Rice. If we can do that and it can be legitimately successful, I truly believe that that could be a start to creating that fan engagement, because a lot of stuff we pride ourselves on here is grassroots. But if you can't get it right inside the stadium, it's not going to matter what you do outside the stadium, because people aren't going to want to go. If the goal is to go to a football game and you have a bad experience in the stadium, nobody's paying money for it. So let's hope that they take what they've done last week and what they're probably going to do this week, and let's hope it starts with game 1. I'm going to be optimistic about it and hope they get it done, because the potential is there with the new stadium. I mean, you have to get a slam dunk on that first game. You have to.
You have some passionate listeners out here, so I'm gonna make a plea to them real quick, okay? So I just set a calendar appointment Thursday, August 14th, which is 2 weeks before the game. On that Thursday, 2025, we're gonna start talking about. We're gonna text you. We're gonna email you. We're gonna start talking about the first game experience, and remind people. Remind the university how important it is for that first impression, especially with the new, and they should already have these plans in place, right? Leading up to this. So maybe it needs to be 30 days before. Maybe we needs to be the whole month before. That is the theme of just making sure that, and you kind of just beat the drum and in a positive way, in a positive pressure way, because dude, people, they have a lot of stuff going on. They got other sports going on. They have this thing right here. They have to balance so much. RCF's raised their money for the stadium, and they're doing this, and they got other. So if you guys can be a voice, and just Nick, just on August 14th, bro, just wind it up, man. Just get it going. You know what I'm saying? Just pull the string. Be like, hey, you remember when people were they were falling out last August? Let's make sure it don't happen again.
I agree. I think that's a great valid point.
Don't worry.
Look, we've been here long enough, and we always say we're not going anywhere. We look. I was telling somebody today, and I know this sounds, people are going to think I'm some kind of crazy dreamer when I say this, but I really mean it. I think with what Coach Des is building right now, and the type of success we've had in the last 15 years, right? Blake, no offense, but when you played, there was some tough days, and you know that, right? We were all experienced it together, and to see what it has evolved into since when HUD first arrived into the Billy Napier years and into now at 8-2. We're sitting at 8-2 we have a chance to make the conference championship game. And we're right outside. And even with this loss, we're still kind of outside the top 25. That was something you can only dream of 30 years ago. I really believe that if we do this right, game day experience, fan engagement, getting all of the different parishes involved in a way that not necessarily, it doesn't mean we have to go and, yes, you want to get the messaging out, but doing things to get community leaders involved in the surrounding areas. Go get the mayor. Look, the mayor of Breaux Bridge is a huge Raging Cajuns fan. He's a huge fan of Raging Review. The mayor of Scott, a UL fan. The mayor of Youngsville, a UL fan. You've got local leaders that are UL alumni that have huge influences in their communities. Get them on board.
Why aren't we having a Boudin Festival game? Why aren't we having a Pokemon
I totally agree.
Game? You know what I'm saying?
I totally agree.
Easy. That's low-hanging fruit. So yeah,
that's right. And that's where I think if we get all of those people included and their constituents follow, you build a natural following. And then on top of that, you get the game day experience right. You get the tailgating right. The rest will take care of itself on the football field because they all work together. That helps with recruiting. That attracts fans. That attracts people. That attracts a culture. You cultivate that and you bring that success on the football field. You know what my vision is one day? And look, you can mark this down on November 21st, 2024.
A candy yam cook-off.
You damn right. But anyway, what I envision is 10 years down the road, we're in the CFP, on ABC in the Rose Bowl. Coach
next year we're in the damn CFP.
Well, I'm talking where it's a norm, not necessarily a once in a lifetime, one-time appearance. I'm talking 10 years where it's a norm. And what I was going to say was where the play-by-play guy goes, here are the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, third CFP appearance or fourth CFP appearance led by, Coach Michael Desimo, or maybe Des might have moved on by then. I don't know. But Coach Michael Desimo, as he's leading the team in the tunnel, those big bowl games where like they show the cameraman's following the team walk out the locker room, and they have in the letters says Louisiana Raging Cajuns, that's what I envision. I think we can get there if we do it right, but you got to have a basis point. You got to start somewhere. And I think starting somewhere, not necessarily with what we're doing, but having a group of fans that are passionate like you, Blake, like us, and creating dialogue now we got to take action. I think now this could be the starting point to actually take action and put forth an effort with, maybe some people may not like what we have to say, but you know what? Maybe we come to the table and say, what can we do? What's the next step? Because we could talk all day. I think now it's time to say, what can we do next? What's the next step to get to reach the goal we want to reach?
But allow us to take the next step.
That's correct.
Don't put up roadblocks. Don't tell me liability.
That's correct.
And the one thing you left out, Jerry, student engagement, especially with the Greek organizations. We have got to stop putting up roadblocks, and we need to find a way to get students to our games. We have, I think Blake or somebody in our group text mentioned, 14,000 undergraduate students. We got to get half of those excited about Cajuns football. Not everybody's going to do it. Half of them to get excited, and then another half of those to show up every Saturday. That's what we need in the stadium. But we have got to stop putting up roadblocks. When they start to have fun, you got to stop sending cops to the frat houses. We got to stop doing that stuff, man. I
let them in the
frat
house
thing, but no other university has these restrictions against those folks. You look at any old, even back in our day, man, we had the Greek letters in the South End Zone. Remember that? They had all the Greek letters for homecoming. Every game, the Greeks were out. It was a party. Everybody would go there after the games. That didn't happen anymore because they can't. They can't do it. So we've got to stop putting up our own roadblocks, and the university has to start letting some rope go, hold the rope. Well, let some of that rope go to allow us to do the things, as Blake said, you can't do because you just don't have the staffing, the budget, the ability. We can do it from a grassroots effort. Give us the ability to do so and be successful is all that I ask.
And let us help, let us help out. I think if we do that and we can, because look, there's some things behind the scenes that I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to meet at the table with some people and sit down and say, what can we do to help? And look, that doesn't mean we're going to give up, what we believe in either. We're not just going to surrender. Well, you have to do everything. It's our way, the highway. That's not how this works. Because at the end of the day, we're still alum, we're still supporters, and we're still your customers. So we're gonna come to the table as well, and we're gonna say, look, there's some things we can do, but this has to be a two-way street. This can't be our way or the highway. That's not, because if it's our way or the highway, you're where you are where you are now. You're sitting on the ground, and that's not how it works. We got to elevate a little bit. So, look, it's I think it's time. And Blake, the effort that you've cultivated has been fantastic, and I think this could be something great. I mean, look, there's one thing I've learned over the last few weeks, reading social media and stuff, is we have passionate fans who want to make a change, and not when I say change, I mean change as in getting on their feet and doing something, right? Showing how they support the Cajuns, not just buying tickets and wearing Raging Cajun gear, but actually saying, what can we do to help? This is a grassroots culture. That's who we are. But Cajun people help each other. So I look forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Not getting into much details of what we're going to say or do, but I mean, this is a starting point where, you brought up the gumbo cook-off, I mean, that's
so important question. I want to go around the horn on this. Gumbo cook-off. You put okra in your gumbo. So I'm sticking to chicken. I do some andouille sausage, probably get some of the old Darby sausage from Scott. It's a fresh sausage. You fry that, you get that good grease, put it in there. And then maybe, no, that's pretty much it. I don't put any okra or anything else in there. I just rely on the flavors. Blake, what you putting in your gumbo, man?
So it's all about roux preparation for me, man. I like to treat my roux like I'm baking bread in my mind. So I'm thinking. So as I'm looking for the right consistency, the right texture, the right color, I put my onions and my garlic in, and I'm not trying to burn my garlic. I lower it out, and I want those seasonings and flavors to really soak into the roux. And I feel like the flavor profile of the roux actually changes. Because for a long time, I just browned my roux, and then I put water in, boil the water, throw my onions, throw my garlic in it. And I felt like there was a separation. There was a flatness when you bake it all together. And I say bake because I make it like a little loaf of bread, as I'm kind of like letting it just kind of seep in there. And then I like to make a smothered chicken on the side. So I'll make a smothered chicken, and then also cut I like fresh chicken sausage. If I can do a green onion chicken sausage, I like that. So I'm probably going with a gumbo that's like that.
New News is my favorite. By the way, New News is my favorite, like green onion sausage. I don't know if you've tried them, but
I like New News. I'm gonna give a shout out to Earl's right down the street. Yes. Earl's. I'm off of Earl School Road, and look, I've shopped at Rouse's too. I love them. A great Louisiana place, right? But Earl's is, to me, got some of the best meat in Lafayette too.
Jared, do you even know how to cook a gumbo? You just know how to eat your seafood soup.
I know how to eat my seafood soup. No, believe it or not, look, on the A-Bear side, I have family from Lorville and Jeanerette. So yes, I do know how to cook a gumbo. I would probably go, believe it or not, I'd make the roux. I love chopped garlic. I love chopped onions, a little bit of bell pepper. I would also do some little bit of onion powder. I'd probably do some, maybe a little spice here and there. Salt and pepper, your typical. And then I would do, I'd probably add a little water to it, but I like to cook down the onions, and I like to cook down the garlic with it. And then I usually probably go a chicken. I'd probably do about a half a chicken, cut up the legs and whatnot, and just throw it in and just let it kind of cook inside the soup itself as it cooks. I know I'm saying seafood soup just for you, Nick, because I wanted to see your reaction, but I would let it cook for a good couple hours. And my thing is the seasonings. It's more about the seasonings than it is anything else with the meats, the seasoning and the meats. But I love to add,
man. I'm telling you, bay leaves in it. That gives it a little extra shaws.
A little bit of onion powder, a little bit of garlic powder on top of it. And I would just let it sit. Let the meat cook itself. Sausage wise, man, I am wide open to ideas with Cajun sausage, because I feel like all Cajun sausage is good to me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really have a preference. I can go all the way from Richard's to just going to a random store in a small Cajun town and just trying it out. It's almost like, whether it's smoked, whether it's flavored a different way, whether it's spiced up, whether it's mild. Like, I just feel like Any Cajun sausage is going to be good with a gumbo.
I
I
don't
don't know.
It depends on how hard it's smoked, man. Because
This is true.
That's true. That's true.
And that's why I do half and half sometimes. I'll put half, smoked, half, fresh sausage.
I picked up a pack of smoked. They do Best Stop at Rouse's. You can get the smoked in, and I put it in some beans. And man, the smoke flavor was so hard on it. I couldn't figure out. I was like, I thought I ruined my beans, and it was just like I was feeding to my mama too, and she tasted it. And she was like, "What?" And I'm like, I don't know what I did wrong. She was like, yeah. We looked at the pack. I was like, man.
My mom cooks a good white bean. She likes putting that ham hock in there.
Oh yeah,
some good ham hock. You just let that baby.
Look, Holmes smoked sausage. I don't know if you Texas sausage, but Holmes is.
I don't like beans, bro.
And then
you don't like white beans, okay?
Yeah, and then Richard's green onion sausage.
My buddy texted me. My buddy texted me. He's listening. He said turkey stock.
Yeah, turkey stock.
Turkey stock.
I put chicken stock. Or
I do
seafood
chicken
stock if it's seafood gumbo.
See, we usually do chicken stock. And look, there's my wife. Say Jerry giving cooking tips. Look, I could cook some Cajun meals now.
Exact. Thank you, Kayla. I wasn't gonna say it. I'm being nice to Jerry tonight,
Yeah.
but I'm
We
just
let him
saying.
go. We were letting him go. It's cute.
Yeah, he's like, I put some onion powder, I put some garlic powder.
I like the cook
Jerry.
Well, I do everything. Look, I gotta season it more, man. Like the problem is so many people. Here's the problem with a lot of people that cook gumbo. They try to do everything natural, okay, and it doesn't always work. Sometimes you got to cheat a little bit, right?
You got to cook it, then you got to taste it, and then you add what you're missing. That's how you do it, man. You get to the end, and you're like, what? Because if you over season it with all the sausage in there and stuff, then you screw it all up.
I don't know, man. It adds a little kick to it. I like the kick. Sometimes I feel like it adds a kick.
We come from a great family of cooks. Like our Thanksgiving dinner is almost like a food competition. Everybody brings a dish, and it's the best food you've ever tasted before in your life. And almost everybody can cook a good gumbo. Almost. And some people were like, don't cook that again. But almost everybody can cook a good gumbo, and it's elite. And a bunch of them are going to be in this gumbo cook-off. So I'm excited about this. This is super cool. I'm not quite sure how they're going to pull off the logistics. I think we're just going to kind of play it by ear. We'd offered to help. It's tough it is when you haven't worked with people before on any kind of a project level. It's tough to say, hey, look, here's our plan. What's your plan? Let's go ahead and meet in the middle, especially whenever they're full-time doing other stuff too. So we kind of decided, listen, y'all, we'll be there on game day to be able to help support any way possible. I think all fans should maybe do the same thing. Don't have high expectations. I think the university is doing an awesome job stepping up and saying, hey, we're going to do this. But they're also trying to kind of figure out how to make this work. Some of the folks that are running it have maybe never done a food cook-off before. And Cajun Country Rice is going to step up and probably lead the show.
Yeah,
as they should. I mean, it should be the freaking title sponsor for the gumbo cook-off. You know?
Absolutely. Lane, do you cook gumbo?
Yeah, I actually did it for a living for 3 years or so.
That is true. Yeah, at Jambalaya Shop, which actually, believe it or not, Jambalaya Shop had one of the best gumbos in town. FYI.
Well, before you go on, I need like either you or Topham or somebody needs to give me the damn jambalaya pastelaya recipe because that was good and I cannot get it just right. So y'all need to hook me up with the pastelaya thing. Okay, go ahead with the gumbo, Charles.
But yeah, getting a good roux in is good. The last sausage I used was Savoy's, I want to say, and it turned out pretty good. But I'll usually do any type of andouille sausage. No tomatoes, no okra, nothing crazy. But yeah.
You know, it's funny. I was there was a big gumbo debate on Facebook or Twitter or something recently, and I got a kick out of this. And I wanted to ask you guys this because gumbo was originally founded as kind of like a little bit of more of a stew base, and of course, Cajuns and Creoles adopt it in different ways. They make it in different ways. And so it's funny because there was a big debate and there was some guy that kept like showing up this picture from Google saying that it's a stew and it needs to be thick, thick, thick. And I'm just kind of like, well, maybe it was originally founded that way, but it kind of evolved into the kind of Cajun gumbo meal that we love. I guess what's your opinion on that? Do you like a thicker gumbo? Do you like more of a watery based gumbo? What's y'all's preference on that?
Look, you have a stew. I make a seafood stew with that is thick, right? And I put the boiled eggs in there, and it's, that's one thing.
Like a shrimp stew, yeah.
A shrimp stew, right? But then you have, or a fricassee. I mean, it's
fricassee,
kind of like
yeah.
a stewish, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is just a little bit thinner. Now, I will tell you, living in Texas, when I make a gumbo, you have to put so much meat in there because nobody is taking the roux. They just want all of the so like the first time I cooked for a bunch of people here, like I got through 3 plates and there was no meat left. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? Because they literally grabbed all the meat and just stuffed it on in their plate with like a little bit of the roux. So it depends where you're cooking it too. Some people like it like normal people from South Louisiana like it like it's a, it's a gumbo with the thinner roux and not as thick as a stew. But then you come to Texas and these people are weird. They're watching, by the way, so y'all are weird.
If you say it needs to be like a stew, it is then a stew.
Correct.
That's the key. Like that's your key transitional phrase there. So a gumbo is different than a stew. So if you're like, oh, it needs to be thicker like a stew, then cool, you're making chicken stew. And chicken stew is good. Chicken stew is really good. I love to make a good chicken stew, a beef stew, a pork stew, but then that becomes a stew. And that's a thicker roux. That's my, my definition. I'm going to have a bowl. Some people call it a soup. We call it a gumbo because of what it is. There's that, man, I forget the name of the restaurant. They do a like a ramen gumbo, and they have so you have noodles in the gumbo.
Is that yakame?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what the restaurant you're talking about.
I think it's called
Soul House Kitchen. They do that.
It's like the Cajun. So like I had some leftover gumbo the other day. I had no rice, but I had some noodles. So I bought some noodles. I put some noodles in my gumbo, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
I felt a little dirty about it. I was like, should I be doing this?
That started in New Orleans. It was basically, it's like a mixture of like African, Creole, Asian, Cajun, basically.
Yeah.
It's all 4 in 1. And it's called yakame. Basically, it's noodles inside of like a spicier version of a gumbo.
Yeah.
I've had it a few times. It's more popular in like New Orleans more than it is here. It's unique. I've had it a few times, and of course, me being Asian and Cajun, it's for me, it's the perfect dish, I guess. But it's good. It's good in its own way. You just like if you're Cajun, you're probably not used to it as much as you would be if you're from New Orleans, just because of where it came from. If that makes any sense.
Well, it's like pastelaya. I mean,
similar.
It's kind of different, but this is a little more extreme. But just saying, like pastelaya was never a thing until somebody made it a thing. So,
Nick, you ever had yakame?
I don't know that person.
Yakahu.
I think the restaurant y'all might have been talking about was Azumi, the ramen place.
They might have it there.
Right there off of Kali's Saloon. Like,
yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
It's like a gumbo, Cajun gumbo or something.
Yeah, dude, it's good. It's
All right.
good.
Last question. Last question, because we have to actually talk sports.
Yeah.
Potato salad in the gumbo or on the side? I'm on the side, Jerry. What you think?
On the side. I can't do it in the gumbo. I know people that do. I can't do it.
I'm ambidextrous. I'll do it both ways. I don't care. Yeah. I'll
I'll
throw
do
it.
both.
I don't want it all nasty and yellow in there, but I like
That's
to
what I'm
put it
saying.
in there and eat it. I don't mind if I don't have a side plate. I'll put it in my gumbo and eat it.
Put a
Like, I'll
little spoonful, then take the
Right.
I get that.
I'll do
Yeah.
that. I can do that, but I can't put it in because then it takes away from the gumbo. I like
It's
the
a
natural
texture
flavor.
thing. I don't know. I
just feel like it takes away the flavor, I just like the gumbo. But anyway, we could talk about this all day. That's the beauty of our podcast. We talk Cajun culture and we get carried away talking about how we make gumbo and what by yakame, and Nick got educated on yakame tonight. Yakahu. But anyway, let's move on real quickly. Let's talk about what's going on around the Sun Belt Conference. So again, Cajuns are in a deep-heated race right now in the Sun Belt Conference. All we got to do is win the next 2 games, and we win the West. So we control our own destiny. If we were to lose a game, we would have to hope for South Alabama to lose one of the next 2 because they actually own the tiebreaker right now. So again, South Alabama has Southern Miss this week. They do have Texas State the last week. So, at worst case scenario, we lose a game or we split. we would hope that Texas State goes into Mobile and spoils the party for South Alabama, but no need to worry about that because we should take care of our own destiny and control our own destiny. All right, let's talk about what happened last week, kind of going over some scores in the Sun Belt, starting with ULM. Now, ULM started the season 5-1. They are now on a 4-game losing streak. They traveled to Auburn, lost to Auburn by the score of 48-14. They will, I know they're still trying to figure it out. Again, they were off to a great start, but the next 2 games aren't going to be easy for ULM as they take on Arkansas State and host the Cajuns. So, started off great, playing lately, not so much. So again, Auburn 48, ULM 14. Marshall took care of Coastal Carolina 31-19. It was JMU winning a close one against Old Dominion by the score of 35-32. Troy once again upsets Georgia Southern on the road, basically throwing a wrench in the Eastern Division race. Troy victorious 28-20. Arkansas State taking care of business against Georgia State 27-20. It's kind of ironic right now. People are talking about how Vanderbilt has had a good season this year, beating Alabama and playing some great competition. And then they drop a game to Georgia State, who is now 2-8 on the season. Crazy how college football works there. Of course, South Alabama, we already talked about that, victorious over the Cajuns 24-22. And it looks like Southern Miss has pretty much cashed out and called it a season as they drop a really big loss to Texas State by the score of 58-3. And that also makes Texas State officially bowl eligible for the 2nd year in a row. This week, big games coming up. JMU will travel to App State. Should be a great matchup. Game kickoff will be at 1:30. Game will be on ESPN+. JMU also in the hot race for the Sun Belt Eastern Division. Many things have to happen, but again, they're in the mix to win the East. South Alabama will travel to Southern Miss. Kickoff will be at 2:00. Game on ESPN+. ULM will travel to Arkansas State. Kickoff will be at 2:00. Game on ESPN+. Georgia Southern will travel to Coastal Carolina. Kickoff will be at 2:30. Game will be on ESPN+. Georgia State travels to Texas State. 6:00 kickoff. Game will be on ESPN+. Marshall will take on Old Dominion. Marshall will travel to Old Dominion. Kickoff will be at 6:30. Game will be on ESPNU. Now, that game, believe it or not, indirectly, very important for Louisiana as far as hosting the Sun Belt Championship if the Cajuns would win out, because right now, Marshall and Louisiana share a 5-1 record. Now, if they were both to finish with the same divisional record on each side, each team will face each other, but the way they would also determine who would host would be based on a bunch of combined rankings. So look, the last 2 weeks playing ODU and JMU has a little more weight than Troy and ULM. So basically you want to hope that Marshall at least drops one game. And if Louisiana wins out, Louisiana will host. Blake, you have a question. What you got, dude?
So this is ignorance on my part. All right. So conference record leads it. They're 7-3 overall. We're 8-2 overall. Does it then go to overall record before it goes to?
No, I don't think it does. I think it goes to now correct me if I'm wrong. We might have to look this up, but I think it goes. It's about conference record. I think if they end up,
Who you
they
play
both end up. Well, yeah, and also too, it goes to ranking. So, for example, even if we may have a better record, they may have more quality wins. So, the last 2 games, we're playing a 3-7 team, and we may be playing a team that might be 5-6. We win those 2 games. Well, they go to ODU, who has a better record, and then they go beat JMU. That may give them the upper hand. So, again, that is very important. That we hope Marshall drops a game there if we want to host, because that is very important. If we take care.
It's a tight race in the East.
It's very, very tight. Absolutely. So, yeah, Marshall will travel to Old Dominion. Kickoff will be at 6:30. Game on ESPNU. And, of course, last but not least, Troy travels to Louisiana to take on the Cajuns here at Cajun Field. Kickoff will be a 4:00 game on ESPN+. All right. Well, now that we've got football out the way, we'll come back before we end the episode to give our predictions against Troy. But let's move on to the hardwood. Louisiana Raging Cajuns women's basketball. Kind of interesting. The other night, they were supposed to be the starter of a doubleheader against Mobile College. And unfortunately, Mobile College ran into some logistical issues to where the game had to be canceled the other night. And so the game, I don't believe, will be rescheduled. And Louisiana still sits at 1-1 overall, and they will take on Nichols this Friday night, or should I say tomorrow night, at the Cajun Dome. Tip-off will be at 6 o'clock, and you can listen on 103.3 The GOAT, 1420 a.m. You can also watch the game on ESPN+. Men's basketball. Louisiana Raging Cajuns hosted the Rice Owls the other night, or Tuesday night. Of course, Louisiana defeated Rice last year by 17 points. This year, not so much. Louisiana dropped. It was a bad loss. They dropped a bad loss to Rice by the score of 83-61 in front of a crowd of 1,328 fans. Their record now sits at 1-3 overall. That game, it was almost like they trailed early on. They were down 11 in like the first 10 minutes, brought the game within 1 point at halftime. And then the second half, the game was tied at 50 with about 11 minutes to go. And then all of a sudden, basically, we built a brick house by the number of missed shots that we had. And Rice ended up going somewhere like on a 22-2 run. And that was pretty much the end of it. And again, they came out with a 22-point victory. And it's we have a bunch of guys that are inexperienced right now, and it's showing. There's a lot of inconsistency there. And I think I don't know. As of right now, what I'm seeing is I just think this team has a lot of struggles. It's going to be a long season. The basketball team is now in the Virgin Islands, or the U.S. Virgin Islands, for the U.S. Virgin Islands Paradise Jam. They will tip off against Liberty tomorrow at 4:30 Central Standard Time. And the winner of that game will take on K-State or Kansas State or George Washington. I think the winner plays on Saturday, November 23rd. The loser will play on Sunday, November 24th. It'll be, they'll play on Sunday with a win. Reverse that. They'll play on Sunday if they were to beat Liberty at 7 o'clock. And if they lose, they will play on Saturday at 4:30 again, whether it's the winner or loser of Kansas State or George Washington. And then they'll play their final game on Monday before coming home for a few days off and hosting Nichols the following week.
Jerry, I think we need to do some research on teams in the United States who have played in the Caribbean in the last 15 years. How many have done that? Because I bet you we lead that list for the annual booster trip to the Caribbean. It has not been a good season for basketball. Stop me if you've heard this before. We make it a close game, and then the other team goes on a huge run to put us away. And how many fans did you say were there?
1,328.
Not even
328 sounds more.
So Blaine, you were at the game. Tell us about the game itself. Like what you saw on the court, the experience, the crowd. You were there.
There was no enthusiasm from the fans until we got tied or got down by 1 point at half. And then it just was lackluster from there. There was maybe at most 400 fans, at most, students included. There was maybe 30 students in the stands where they got their
t-shirts, right?
Several people had like multiple t-shirts because nobody showed up.
Probably security didn't stop them.
Yeah. And they were literally checking the tickets. Even if nobody else was in your section, they were checking your ticket. I was like, well, what's the point? But yeah, a lot of people started leaving around probably midway through the second half just because they knew what was happening.
But those who stayed around fought, right?
Yeah, there was an argument.
I mean, how much lower can we get at this point, man?
And it was like happening courtside. I'm like, what in the world is going on?
So there was a scuffle at the end of the game by courtside, but with a bunch of fans. What was the conflict about?
I don't know. They were arguing back and forth in the second half, and then the one of the parties was like, get the cops over here and get security. I'm like, I don't even know what's happening.
To escort Bob Marlin away from Lafayette, hopefully.
So,
yeah.
I was going to say.
The point, before you go, Jerry,
Go
the point is, if they have enough fans to where I can hear fans giving crap to the head coach on microphone on the stream because there's nobody there, there's a problem. And the problem ain't me complaining about it. The problem ain't you complaining about it. The problem is obvious, but I'll give him time. We'll give him a few more games, and then we'll really have a deep dive into it, Jerry.
Well, I was going to say, like, the difference in this game was the second half. I mean, Rice was 13 for 26. They were 50% from the field, and Louisiana was 8 for 33, 24% from the field, 24%. I mean, you're not going to beat anybody 24% from the field. I mean, they were 35% from the field, 32% from the field at 3 points. And then we were 3 for 8 on free throws. You know, we always talk about, well, you know, we didn't get enough free throws. Even with the 8 free throws we had, we only got 3 of them. We were 37.5% from free throws.
Isn't the whole point of basketball to get the ball in the goal? Like that's what drives me nuts. Like, why are those the guys we're recruiting? Like, you shoot the ball and you get points and you
harder
win.
than it looks.
I get that, but like for me, yes, for guys who that's what they do, it should be easier. I don't know, man. Like, to me, the whole point is you get
the chemistry's not there. Right now, we've got talent. We've got talent. That's the frustrating thing. And look, you've got a bunch of guys that are trying to figure things out. But now's crunch time. You're in season. You're playing some stiff competition. I mean, look, this Liberty team beat College of Charleston at College of Charleston's house by 19, 20 points. They played FAU, a Final Four team 2 years ago, to 3 points. They beat Valparaiso, who is a team that normally goes to the dance every year. They beat them pretty handily. This is not going to be an easy game tomorrow. So whatever identity crisis we have, whatever type of chemistry that we lack, it has to get fixed right now. We don't have time to wait for conference, because let me tell you something. We play Louisiana Tech in a couple weeks. They went to UMass and beat them by double digits at their house.
Well, they'll do that during the regular season, but they still won't make it out their
they
own
won't
tournament every year.
Yeah, that is true. But I'm just saying it really is. I mean, I'm gonna be, again, I'm gonna be somewhat of an optimist and hope that this team turns it around and figures it out. But right now, it is sloppy. Let's just call it what it is. It's sloppy.
How's the transfer portal affecting the Cajun basketball team? It's
tremendously. We lost our 2 best players, one to Arkansas State, the other one to McNeese. I mean, and then we have Hosanna Contingent, who was pretty much our guy this year. He's out with a season-ending injury. So, you know, Time
out. You said something my brain doesn't compute. I'm an ignorant fan when it comes to basketball. I like watching basketball, but it's not on my feed. I have no marketing towards me for basketball right now to go to a game. Just looked at my Facebook page and everything else. They're not targeting me. I haven't clicked on any links. You said we lost our best player to McNeese?
Yep.
And the second best player we lost to Arkansas State, who was
I'm not even
legacy guys.
I'm not being pejorative. I'm stunned right now. How does McNeese pull a best player away? Did they like raise NIL money? Or is and the coach over there?
NIL money. NIL, number one, it's NIL money, and number 2, it's Will Wade.
But I will tell you, Blake, we were close with the player's family. The dad is a very good friend of the pod. I will tell you, it was not about NIL and money. No matter what folks want to say about, and he did get paid, which he should. It wasn't about NIL. It wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah. And then with Kobe Julian going to Arkansas State, it was about money. But this is a guy who has been through 2 knee surgeries. He's been through multiple injuries, and he still gave it his all here for 5 years. So, and he still left. Mm-hmm. That's where I just think right now, again, we lost 2 guys who were staples on this roster. And now we got a bunch of new guys who, yes, they're talented, but there's no identity. There's no chemistry. I mean, Lane, you saw it live. We saw it on TV. There is a missing link of chemistry that's just, it's non-existent. And what's sad about that is the fact that there's a lot of fans out there that are just with the mindset of, I mean, I told you so.
And
That's where we are, and it is what it is.
We've seen this before, Jerry. It's cyclical. We can tell you what's going to happen every single year, and we're right on track. So, yeah.
How is the crowd on TV?
Not good.
Yeah, like I said, if I can hear single fans screaming at how terrible certain coaches are, if I can hear that on the stream, that ain't great, bro.
And what makes
the production value was great. They do a great job with the production.
Yeah,
I will say
no
that.
doubt.
And the addition of the guy on the side, given commentary is great, but it ain't there, brother. Ain't there.
Yeah, let's see what happens this weekend. Look, they got 3 games.
And by the way, I'm not a guy who's like, Saints fans are hoping they lose games so they get a better pick. I don't want to lose any game. So I'm not cheering for these. I'm pulling for the guys every single game. I want them to be successful and win. Mm-hmm. The sad part of it is when it's like when you see something coming and you know it's going to happen and then it happens and then it pisses you off more. That's kind of where I am as a fan right now. So
yeah,
I just want to add that.
No, I mean, that's where I'm at too. Look, I'm watching this stuff and look, I watched every minute of that Houston game. We lost by 46. I watched every minute of that Rice game. We lost by 22 at home. I mean, that was a 39-point turnaround from when we played Rice last season, and we beat them at their house by 17. So, and Rice is a totally different team. Rob Lanier, who was a former coach at Georgia State, brought him to the dance, and he was at SMU for a couple years, and now he's at Rice. Look, in the 5 games at Rice, he's turned that team around pretty fast. I mean, they're a good basketball team.
I'm telling you, Jerry, Glenn Cyprian is what put this program in purgatory. I mean, that hire single-handedly changed the trajectory of the entire program. Crazy to say. And the young kids these days don't know who Glenn Cyprian is. Happy to educate you.
It's a shame. I know. It really is a shame. But I mean, I still don't think there's any. Look, I know Josh says Rice is not a good baskarball team. They were a lot better than we were. I'll say that.
I mean, they're 4-1 now, so
they're 4-1. They played Florida State to 8 points. They're not a bad team. They're nowhere. We're not as good as they are if they're beating us by 22 at our house. So this team's got a lot of. This team has a lot of reflection to go through.
Soul searching,
and we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow against Liberty, and we'll see what happens this weekend. But look, we can either go in there, maybe take a game or two, or we can come back 1-6. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Anyways, that's going to do it for basketball. Before we talk about our predictions, I just want to tell everybody, look, this is senior day. And it's very important that if you're in town, weather's going to be nice. A lot of the kids are off of school for Thanksgiving break. If you're not doing anything Saturday afternoon and you want to go watch some good football, you got a team right here in town that is playing for a spot in the conference championship. You've got a team that is ranked in the top 30, top 35 in the country. You've got a team that is still hungry and still has their goals in front of them. You've got a team that has played their hearts out all season long. You've got a team that can really, really control their own destiny and have a chance to bring another home game to Cajun Field in a couple weeks. Go check them out. You got the gumbo cook-off. You're going to have tailgating. You're going to have good football weather with some decent events inside of the parking lot. If you get the chance, go check them out. You can get tickets for as low as $15 to sit in general admission. It's a 4:00 kickoff, so the sun's still going to be out. The game's going to be over. You're still going to have things. You still got time to do things at night. Of course, we'll be back here for the post game that night. But look, this is my plea to Acadiana. Go support this team. Go support these guys. And look, let's pack Cajun Field on Saturday. I think that this could be a statement game for Louisiana. And my wife, my daughter, and I will be there. Blake, I know you and your family will be there. Lane, I'm not sure. I know you have work conflicts, but I'm sure if you didn't have work conflicts, you would be there either way. Nick, I know you're in Houston. Maybe.
It depends.
But,
so
yeah.
Monday and Tuesday with work, if I can get out of a couple of commitments I made, that means I'd be able to stay through Thanksgiving because I'm not feeling going all the way there and then back again. So
totally understandable.
Working on it.
Understandable. You're a little bit of a distance away, so I mean, we can definitely understand that. But it's Acadiana. Go check them out. Go check out this team. Go to Pat Cajun Field. Support the Cajuns. Cheer loud. Have fun, and help this team bring home a win. So, guys, before we go, predictions. Nick, what do you think? What the Cajuns are going to do against Troy?
I'll keep it short and sweet. I will say 31-20 Cajuns.
Lane, what you got?
I think we win the turnover battle, and I think we win 31-17.
Oh, me? 45-17. We freaking smash them.
I like that, Blake. I tried that last week. It didn't work, but coming from you, I like it.
45-17.
Yeah, so I went on Troy Boys the other day, which, by the way, listen to Troy Boys podcast. Thank you so much for having me on, guys. It was a great episode. So if you get the chance, you want to hear my voice again, they did a behind enemy lines segment. I got to go represent the pod and talk about what my thoughts were. I think the Cajuns, I don't see the Cajuns having 2 weeks in a row of bad football, especially a bad half of football. I think this was the time for a wake up call was just right. Knowing what's at stake here, I just and seeing the fact that we've lost in the last 2 years against better Troy teams and losing heartbreaking games to them, I just don't think they come to our house and beat us on senior day. I just don't see it. I think Louisiana wins. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than we like. Actually, I gave my prediction the other day, and I'll stick with it. It's very close to yours, Nick. I think the Cajuns come out, win a double-digit victory. I say Cajuns beat Troy by the score of 31-21. And I think we're going to be 9-2, and we go to Monroe and control our destiny. So we'll definitely see what happens, but should be a lot of fun. Blake, tell everybody where you'll be at for the tailgate, man, so they can find you.
Yeah, so West Congress, pretty much on the if you're facing West Congress from the field, right hash, those tailgate spots. I want to say they're maybe tailgate like 20 and 21. So it's Lafayette Roofing is there. My father-in-law, Paul Patu, Gulf Coast Bank is like one spot over. And then we've got also 2 RV spots on the other side. So we kind of square off so that way our kids can play and all hang out. So we got 4 spots out there.
Very good. So you heard him. Go check it out. Go visit Blake. Go say hello. And if you want to talk some Raging Cajun sports, he's the guy to talk to. If you want to get involved as a fan, go talk to Blake. He can help you out there. And again, should be a lot of fun. Weather should be great, and should be a great day for Raging Cajuns football. So, guys, that was fun tonight. That was a lot of fun. We will definitely be back on Saturday following the Cajuns senior day against Troy. Just remember, Cajuns will take on the Troy Trojans this weekend at Cajun Field for senior day. Go thank the seniors for their 4 years of wearing the vermilion and white. Kickoff will be at 4 o'clock. You can watch the game on ESPN Plus or listen on Hot 107.9 as well as 103.3 The GOAT or 1420 AM. Jay will be in the Virgin Islands covering basketball, so Dawson Isolo will be doing play-by-play along with Cody Juno. That's going to do it for tonight, guys. If you like what we do, please like, subscribe. We're on Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram. We're also on TikTok and Twitch. You can listen to us on Spotify as well as Apple iTunes. Once again, we will be back on Saturday night following, hopefully, a Cajuns win in our post game where you get the chance to call, comment. We'll analyze what we saw and talk about the game day experience. Once again, guys, thank you so much for joining us. For Nick, for Lane, for Blake, I am Jerry. In the words of the late, great Big Dave Thibodeau, bye, we out of here. See you Saturday night following the Cajuns game against Troy. And as always, go Cajuns.
You want Bill Pepper, y'all.